Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the college football edition of ProLine. It's week 5 of the college season. I'm John Cranton in Las Vegas, joined by Jeff Sadi, who runs Las Vegas Sports Services. Going to take a look at 3 college football games coming up this weekend with an emphasis on some Pac-12 games. First, we're going to tell you a little bit about some of the quarterback changes that have been going on in college football. We got the word this week that Clemson's going to make a change for this Saturday against North Carolina. They're going to go with the freshman DeShaun Watson, and Clemson was involved in a game last Saturday where there was more quarterback changes. Jameis Winston had to sit for one game, and boy, the backup quarterback, Sam McGuire, 305 yards passing, but only 1 touchdown and 2 picks against Clemson. They were a big favorite. In fact, the line went from 14 down to 10.5 when Winston was announced he wasn't going to play, and they eked out an overtime win, 23-17. On another note, this Florida State ground game, the passing in the ground was so devastating a year ago as they averaged over 50 points. Yet that's not the case this season. You got Florida State ranked 111th in the nation in rushing, including an abysmal performance against Clemson. So, Jeff, what is going on with the Seminole offense?
Well, they played 2 FBS teams, and both of them were good. Oklahoma State and Florida State might have had a little letdown in that game coming off a national championship season. And then Clemson has a good defensive line, but against Clemson they had 13 yards, 27 attempts, 0.5 yards per carry. That's totally out of character for Florida State. But then again, they weren't with Jameis Winston, who didn't play. So the combination of having a slight letdown, playing some good defensive teams, and Jameis Winston being out, they're kind of off on a bad start there. Plus, in the first half of Clemson, the offensive line has some breakdowns, but they did better in the second half. But going further, I don't think it's too big of a worry yet for Florida State as far as the rushing game goes, John.
Yeah, I would agree with that because they got so much talent back, particularly on the offensive line, and they have had 2 of 3 games where they played some pretty good defensive fronts. So I suspect that's changed, and you'll see the Florida State offense clicking very similar to last year. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. All right, let's get into our first game on Thursday night. You got a Pac-12 game with UCLA playing Arizona State. I might call this the backup bowl for college football on Thursday. Well, first of all, it's a Pac-12 South rivalry game. They're both 3-0. They're both 1-0 in the Pac-12 and have had almost 2 weeks off. But there are some concerns, though, with both quarterbacks being hurt here for both teams. We know with UCLA, Jerry Neuheisel played last week as a backup and played fairly well with 2 touchdowns and 0 picks. And some of the early words are that Hundley is back at practice and playing, and there is a chance that he would play. But there are also problems with the Arizona State quarterback injury situation as well, and they may go to the backup again in the Mike Baravici, who played last week. This is a revenge game, Jeff, as UCLA was undefeated at home last year except for one game, and that was against this Arizona State team, 38-33. And it wasn't really that close as UCLA trailed 35-13 at the half. In the end, both teams had over 400 yards, but Arizona State had a whopping edge in yards rushing with 223, and Brett Hundley passed for 253 yards and 2 touchdowns in a close game. So here you have a couple of unbeaten teams. It's a big game down here in the desert, and you got a UCLA team that's on a nice 9-5 spread run. They're 34-17-2 against the spread. But the big news, 2 big news really for the Bruins this week. You got the quarterback situation, but you also have, on a lesser note, the UCLA defense, which coming into the season, a ton of talent, and they really have been kind of erratic. So how do you assess these Bruins? What's up with them?
Well, they've won 3 close games, so they're learning how to win the close ones, but they're going to have to get better in defense. The tackling has not been good for some reason. And, of course, you have the quarterback situation. Hundley might play. I think he's been practicing with the team, but Jerry Neuheisel did well. I mean, he comes into the game in gigantic Cowboy Stadium, and he does a good job there. He threw 2 TD passes. He was 23 of 30 for 178 yards, so he shouldn't be too intimidated here going into Sun Devil Stadium. Last 2 years, this game has determined the Pac-12 South champion. Arizona State returns only 2 starters on defense, and they gave up 546 yards at Colorado. Todd Graham is 3-1 against the spread with rest at Arizona State. Jim Mora is 4-1 against the spread with rest since he's been at UCLA. Paul Perkins gained 132 yards, 24 carries for the Bruins, but he'll probably be the main running back now as Coach Moore is not too happy with Jordan James after he fumbled at a crucial time in the Texas game. Quarterback Taylor Kelly is going to be out for Arizona State, so it's going to be Mike Bercovici, a junior. He's limited action. He's 9-17 for 79 yards. Running back DJ Foster is averaging 9.4 yards per carry. UCLA has other injuries. Defensive back Randall Goforth is out for the year, linebacker, and sometimes running back Miles Jack is questionable with an ankle. But as we doing this show, there's no line in this game, so I can't really make a pick here, but I think all signs point to this game going down the wire, John.
Yeah, this Arizona State team, very good offensive mind coach here in Todd Graham. And while they do have the quarterback injury problems, it's really a ground game, as you mentioned, Foster, that's carrying. They're 12th in the country with over 300 yards rushing per game. And, the defensive numbers are 20.3 points per game. That's 38th in the country, but they really haven't played anybody. And coming into this season, Arizona State was supposed to have a very good offense with 7 starters back, but they lost their best players on defense. So the early signs on the defensive numbers are pretty good, with one exception, and that's the last game they played against Colorado. Well, they won the game 38-24, but Colorado had 545 yards, including 232 yards rushing. So the jury is still out about this Arizona State defense. Sun Devils on a 9-5 run over the total. Some spread trends here. When UCLA comes off a bye week, they're 3-7 against the spread. They're also, when they go out on the road, 8-0 under the total. And as far as head-to-head meetings, UCLA is 8-3 against the spread against Arizona State, and the home team is 5-2 against the spread. I'm going to have to lean toward the home team here because UCLA, they have very good defensive talent, and they should be good, but it's not been quite there yet. And one reason could be that they made a change, bringing in a new defensive coordinator in Jeff Ulbrich. And, many times you just don't know about these coordinators. Sometimes they're mediocre. Sometimes they're just not good, even if they have talent to work with. So right now, this team has been underachieving on the defensive end. They give up 468 yards to Memphis, including 164 rushing, and then to Virginia, 386 total yards. So I like this UCLA team when healthy, but they're just not doing it defensively. So a small lean with all these injuries on the home team, the team that won there at the UCLA last year.